Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt here with Linda Armstrong. Today is Friday, July the 3rd, 2020. It's 4 p.m. New York time, and wherever you are in the world, thanks for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And I've got disappointing news on the LOA Today app front. I thought we were ready to just roll everything out. We had the PC version, the Mac version, the Android version out, and the iPhone version was coming. And then few things went wrong. Didn't quite go the way I had intended. For the very few, and there are very few who did this, but for the very, very few who may have downloaded the Mac version, no, you did not download malware. That was just me screwing up computer security. I didn't do it properly, so I have to redo that app. It's not a terribly difficult fix, but if you saw something like that, you might have said, well, what are these LOA Today people doing to me? Well, it was just a mistake. There's no malware on your computer. Don't worry about that. But I'm learning as I go. And on the Android side, the Android app works great, except for one little detail. It won't put new shows on there. So I have to go fix that, but okay, at least I don't have to start from scratch, Linda, right? I have most of it there. I just have to kind of suck it up, say, okay, things happen. Time to move on to the next step. Not worry about it.
Ask the universe, how does it get any better than this?
Yeah, how does it get any better? Yeah.
What solutions are available to me now that can create perfect outcome,
Or as Louis D'Souza likes to say, if not this, something better. Yeah, okay. I especially like the second part of that one because I need a little bit better right now. On the other hand, the good news, really good news, and we've been talking about it a little bit this week, is that David Strickle, who was here last week, voicing the stream, has agreed to join us on a regular basis on Tuesdays. So starting July 14th, the stream is going to be part of our regular Tuesday fare. And Linda, I wanted to issue a personal invitation to you because you couldn't be here last Friday to join us on one of the Tuesday shows so you can interact directly with the stream.
Sure. Love that. Yeah.
It was great. I mean, Rita will tell you it was really quite, it's an Abraham-like experience talking to and listening to responses that you get back. And it's really very, very cool.
I'll have to have some questions prepared.
Oh,
I know you have your list, right? But,
you're going to be ready to go.
A couple of questions, because I did listen to the show, and there are things I would have probably wanted to dive into that weren't. So I have to remember what that was.
Well, there's that too, yes. But I know what you mean because I remember doing the first show with them the previous Tuesday and starting off blanked because I couldn't think of a question. Then I got the first question out, and then it was a flow of questions. It's like there wasn't enough time in the show to ask all the questions. So I get it. I totally get it. But that's why we've got them coming on every Tuesday. So we're going to be able to ask the questions over time.
All right.
That's a good thing. And I understand that things are opening up a little bit for you in the New York area. You're able to open your studio soon, so that's going to be good.
Well, my studio is actually in New Jersey.
That's right. The studio's in New Jersey. You're in New York. Yeah, that's right. Yes, you cross the river.
25 minutes from my studio. I don't have to go over any rivers. I'm just like, I live in Rockland County, right above Bergen County.
Oh, well, geez. Yeah. Okay.
Easy. So yeah, we finally get to open. I just have to figure out how that's going to work now.
Yeah, that's always the fun part, right?
Because it is a karate school, and we, so.
Yeah, you're inside, and so you have to deal with all that stuff. That's the one thing about a gardening business. They're outside. They don't have to do as much. Mainly it's interacting with vendors. That's the toughest part, but.
Right. Well, and plus with karate, you actually interact with another body.
Right. Yeah.
We've been over Zoom where there's no bodies interacting with bodies anyway.
Right.
But, we'll figure it out.
I'm sure you will. Yeah. So I hope you had I know you missed doing it with David last Friday, but I hope you had a good week off. Did you do anything fun the past week? Anything interesting happening?
Well, that day I was taking a course all day. That's why I couldn't make the show. So that was fun. And, nothing out of the ordinary. Just, life is good.
That is an important, I don't want to call it a mantra, but that it's an important thought to keep in mind. It's variations on that theme are what I've been focusing my attention on as I've been dealing with the app. The app's been my big thing lately, chewing up huge amounts of time. That plus the gardening business, because obviously I run that with Louise. And it's been challenging. This has been a challenging year in many ways. And it's very important to just find ways to keep flipping that switch over to the positive side every moment of every day, because there's so many challenges coming along.
But keep in mind, we're on a whole new track. I mean, we just switched tracks. I've been talking about this in my videos lately. And the past is gone. Like, really, literally, stop telling the old stories. They don't exist,
They don't exist, right?
Move forward. Like, that's the kind of thing I would want to ask David about, like some questions about that, what's happening right now on the planet and the shifting that's going on and changing tracks and timelines. And I don't think you guys got into anything like that.
Well, no, we really can't. I mean, there's enough time to ask maybe a half dozen questions. And so I went general. I just went broadly general to cover a wide range of stuff, but I knew I couldn't get into any detail on any of them. So that's going to be fun to get into that, though, because I mean, we've talked about it enough, and you're right. That's going to be fun to see what their perspective is.
And there's a lot of channels who are, in different ways coming up pretty much with a lot of the same stuff. So I'd be interested to see what their point of view is on it, So.
What are some of the things that you expect that you'll hear from them that are similar to what you've heard?
Well, just this whole thing about, changing tracks on a whole new timeline. The past is over. We're manifesting much quicker. We're moving into creating, and I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, telepathy is like off the charts. I mean, the synchronicities that have been happening lately are like so much fun. Like even the simplest little things, it's like, I do know how to know, It's like, and even people who don't know this are doing it, because then, I say something like, I was thinking about the person, and I'm like, yes. Yes. And then they call me the next minute, or, I got something in the mail. Like, or I had a question, and then someone walks in the room, and they're like coming in with the answer.
Yes.
They're talking about it already in their own way, and then boom, it comes. I mean, so many things like that are going on. So, I mean, there's a lot of talk about that, how we're really moving more into more of our power in that sense.
Which is very encouraging.
There's so much about like free energy and all that, which already exists, but we haven't really been able to have it. I mean, there's a lot of shifting, I think, going to be happening along those lines. I don't know. We'll just see. Like to see what they have to say about it.
It's going to be fascinating for sure to have these conversations. And I'll mention again what I've mentioned each of the past few shows, because it impacted me this much. It was really astonishing on both Tuesday and Friday last week when David did his little thing to switch over to receiving information from the stream. There was this visceral, you could feel this strong lifting of vibrational energy. I mean, like the whole vibe went up about 5 notches. And the first time it happened, it kind of floored me, like, whoa, what just happened? The second time I was ready for it, I guess, so it seemed gentler. But it was really something. I mean, I guess that's part and parcel of what happens when you communicate with non-physical, right?
Yeah, it's a high vibe.
It's a high vibe, yeah.
I guess
it feels good.
Have to be a high vibe. You can connect to maybe lower entities, but we want the high vibe ones.
And apparently that's one of the reasons why David agreed to do the show, because he found our show to be a high vibe show. So it pays off to be high vibe. How about that? Also, we're talking about bringing in a few more guests. Daniel has a few friends that he's been talking to. He knows some really cool people. David is one of his finds. He has another friend named Nathan that we're talking with, and I don't know all of Nathan's story, but from what Daniel was telling me, it sounded pretty cool. We're also getting a listener named Amy is joining Louie and I on Monday, and I don't know a lot about her, but it's a fascinating thing in that we don't often get listeners saying, hey, I want to be on the show. I mean, we've had it a couple times. Louie was actually the first one. Josie, one of our regular listeners, came onto a show one time to talk about some of her poetry and share some of her poetry. And I don't know a whole lot about Amy, but every time a listener has spoken up, I mean, you know what it's like to be on the show. You have to kind of pick up your game a little bit, raise your energy a little bit, and be ready to talk and so forth. So it's not an easy thing to do. So I'm always fascinated whenever we do have, on those rare occasions, when we have somebody who volunteers says, yeah, I want to do this. Let's see what happens. I mean, the first time that happened, we got Louie out of it. I remember that show distinctly. I was doing that show back when Joel Elston was here. And after the show, Louie disconnected first. And Joel and I were talking. He says, you got to bring that guy on. He knows his stuff. He's really good. I mean, that was the kind of result that we got out of it. So I don't know what's going to happen with Amy, but hey, It's going to be fun to find out.
Yeah. Oh, so you have no clue what she wants to even talk about or why she wants to.
Well, I do have, actually, she gave me an email, and I will try to bring that email up now because I didn't actually print it out before the show. But she did give me some topics, and they were kind of interesting. They were fairly broad. They sounded like they could kind of cover a lot of stuff. She wants to, first of all, talk about, here it is, higher mind. Here's what she says. She wants to talk about learning how to use your non-physical intelligence or higher mind in collaboration with the physical mind so you can use your thoughts and emotions to send out the signals and receive the things you desire. And she says it's the most essential life skill we can learn. And she also wants to talk about parallel realities, which of course ties into the multiverse concept. So and either one of those will probably just take an entire show. Maybe we can get part of both of them in. I don't know. But
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, should be good stuff. So I did a little surfing around to just see if there was anything really going on in the Facebook groups that might give us a topic of conversation. And they're pretty quiet today, possibly because here in the U.S., we're one day away from the 4th of July, our Independence Day. And right. I don't know about you. I've always noticed that things seem to calm down around Independence Day. I'm not quite sure why, but they do. Maybe it's because it's middle of the summer. I don't know. But things just calm down. This year is probably accentuated by the fact that, like you said, there's a whole planetary increase in energy going on. So maybe people are feeling that too. But for whatever reason, it was quiet. So we can't really draw from that. So we're just going to have to kind of spin it out there and, talk about whatever comes to mind.
There's probably even the whole thing because people are still going to have barbecues and things at home going.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah.
So there's planning, shopping, planning, traveling, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for you say that you feel this more with July 4th than like any other holiday?
I've noticed it. Well, Christmas usually has it too. I don't know what it is. I've just kind of noticed in the past, and I thought maybe it was just midsummer, but as I was talking just now, it was kind of associated around when the 4th of July happens, which is midsummer. So I don't know. I kind of made an association. Maybe I'm just dreaming up the association. Maybe it's just because it's summertime. But yeah. Right. Can't explain it more than that. I don't know.
Yeah. So there's you don't have any particular topic. So let me pull a card then. I'll find some.
I'll tell you one topic. I mean, my topic for this weekend is going to be, it's a 3-day weekend, and Louise and I are going to take advantage of it. I mean, you talked about barbecues. We're not doing barbecue, but we've decided we're going to do beaches for a while. So we've got it's a canopy type tent that you use for like a craft fair, that kind of thing. That's the way Louise used to use it. And we've had that in storage for quite some time. So we're going to bring that to the beach and bring a bunch of supplies and just set up for the day and enjoy the surf and enjoy sitting out. And she sits in the sun. I sit in the shade. I'm not really a sun person. That's why I want the canopy. But it's going to be great just to get away and just soak up all the vibrations of the sea, which is, I always love that.
How are they working that? You just make sure you're 6 feet from somebody else on the beach?
Interesting that you mentioned that. Yeah, you are supposed to be just 6 feet away. And there was all this talk about how the states in this area, New York, of course, New Jersey, Connecticut, and a few other states along the eastern shoreline, they all kind of coordinated on when they opened so that all the beachgoers wouldn't go to one state because the other state was closed, that kind of thing. And so there was this thought that all the beaches were going to be swarmed. Well, they aren't in Rhode Island. We go to a particular beach in Rhode Island, and it was relatively calm. I mean, I was surprised. I mean, there were plenty of people there, don't get me wrong, but you have miles of sandy beach anyway. And the chunk that was right in front of where the entrance to the parking lot is, that was all filled up, and they were all spaced out. But you didn't have to go very far before, instead of 6 feet social distancing, they were doing 60 feet social distancing. I mean, literally, they were just kind of spread out. So there was lots and lots of room.
Oh, nice.
And that's what kind of got us thinking, like, shoot, maybe we'll just go do some beaching for a while.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. I can't do it this weekend, but I've been feeling drawn to go to the ocean.
Mm-hmm.
I was shuffling the deck, and this one fell on the floor.
The world? Okay. Yeah. Well, since we were talking about the world, that makes sense.
Here we go.
Yeah. Pretty picture there.
Let's see. see what it wants to say.
Okay.
So it's expansion and opening up. I mean, that's what's been going on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it says the man in the picture is looking out over a bay above which the beautiful sphere of the earth is rotating. This card is reminding you to expand your vision and contemplate some much broader options. The world is wide. So there's a lot out there to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really cool because that opens you up to, there's so many possibilities that when we get locked in our mind, we can't see it because all we know is what we know, right? And we kind of close ourselves in and have all those other programs and things running, which are disappearing because it's a new world.
And you said that a moment ago, how even people who don't know about this stuff, they're experiencing it. They may not even make the connection. They may not notice what's going on, but they're experiencing it. So, I mean, the card's nailing that right on the head.
Well, then it goes on to say, in the modern age of technology, this could specifically be referring to creating or expanding to a more global network through the internet or social marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can look at all you're doing with your apps that you're creating.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yep.
And actually, I've been doing some new stuff that I'm going to be putting out. Somehow I get energized to do more fun promotion. So
good.
Yeah. So that came up just this week.
Sure.
Drawing this card also lets you know that you have unlimited resources available to you, and now's the time to think big. As they say, the world is your oyster, so get ready to gobble it up. Yeah, to me, that's just totally talking to, because I know I've been on this kick with it's a new world out there, guys.
Yeah.
It's a new world. Forget everything. Wait, and the thing too is, I think this pandemic has had people look at the world in a whole new way. I don't mean even the whole world. I mean their world.
Yes.
What they're doing, how they're doing it, how they want to do it in the future.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of new things came out of this by having to do it. And now it's like, oh, I kind of prefer this to what that was. Or how can I incorporate more of it? Like that, everything's changing.
No kidding. Yeah, it's changed, and it's changing for the better, which is probably not something many people thought about when the pandemic particularly was at its peak. But it is changing for the better in ways that kind of surprises us. People find that, yes, the kids are kind of cooped up at home and they're wanting to get out. And so clearly the parents are trying to do whatever they can to accommodate that. But people are actually making family time that weren't making family time before. They're actually getting to know their kids.
Right.
Instead of shipping them off to daycare and then saying hello at dinner, and then that's about it,
Yeah, actually, I just did a July energy reading, and that's the same stuff that was coming up in those cards. I can't remember what cards I pulled, but or it led me to go to that place where, a lot of people are realizing what's important to them. And now we have this holiday weekend where we can spend time with family.
Right.
It's like for so long we got so wrapped up in that you have to keep pushing and doing and and leave everything else behind while you do this, focus on maybe this one area. Well, how can we do that in a different way so that we're not neglecting our family or not neglecting our fun? Fun.
Mm-hmm.
Have some fun. It's time to have some fun. Yeah.
And they mentioned the technology and computers and all that sort of thing. And that's played a huge role. People realized very early on they needed social connectivity because it was missing. Now that everybody was cooped up at home for quite some time there, it was definitely missing. And so online forums like Zoom and Skype and, FaceTime.
I think Zoom has exploded. I'd be curious to see from their business end what's happened to them, because
they went public. About a month, 2 months ago, they went public. That had this huge public offering. So they did exactly that. They went from a small to medium sized company to a gigantic company overnight, and it created a headache, but still.
Like once they saw this going, they went public.
Well, no, the plans were already in place. They basically timed it perfectly. They had somebody intuitive over there who was really connected in, realizing what was going on, and that helped to time it. But it was perfectly timed. And I don't remember what the size of the public offering was. It was in the billions. It was a huge public offering.
I know they helped me out. We're giving karate classes over Zoom.
Yeah.
I always use Zoom because I do coaching when I'm not in person, which I haven't been able to be for a while. Everything was online.
Right.
But now I'm in person again and have
Yep.
sessions in
Yep.
person. Yeah.
But look at what that gave us, though, the fact that people were they were valuing that social connectedness in a way that they didn't value before. It was one of those things that we kind of took for granted. We just, oh, well, it's always there. We see people at work, we see people when we're out and about, and then all of a sudden that was taken away, and we realized, whoa, we really need this stuff. This stuff's important to us.
Yeah.
Started connecting to family more, to close friends more, and so forth.
And the big message I was getting, especially over the past couple of days, is keep it simple. And I always get that. I tell you that my guides I always get keep it simple. There's no right way. Find your own way. But the keep it simple part's been coming in a lot. And what's funny about it is I told you I was just getting re-energized to create some new promo and stuff like that. And
Right.
I have fun with it. Now, I have no deadlines, right? It doesn't have to be done tomorrow. But I found myself, and I had some weird time stuff going on with me lately. I can't even explain what that is. But I started feeling like I didn't have enough time to get everything done. I started getting that energy. That's an old energy. I mean, when I worked in an advertising agency, that was the energy because I was here in the tri-state area and
Sure.
everybody wants everything 2 weeks ago, right?
Right. Exactly.
I found myself back in that energy, which I thought I had kind of pulled myself out, but I'm like, oh, so this is coming. Luckily, I noticed it. After I was that way for a day, and then halfway through, I'm like, what is going on? This isn't me. Why am I doing this? And it had me, and I got that. Keep it simple. I'm like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. I'm reverting back to something old, or it's coming up for me to look at it once again and say, no, I'm sorry, old story, not going to do that anymore. Right? So I was able to pull myself back and just be and have fun with it because there was no reason for me to start putting pressure on myself to get everything done yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I have no deadline. I'm just creating. Like don't you want to create from like ease?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Joy. Because it started to feel not so good, even though I was liking what I was doing. And I was going back. I'm like, what the hell's going on? Then I was like, that's what I heard it. Keep it simple. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm just making everything complicated, really, by thinking that it has to be done a certain way or in a certain time or putting all these conditions, right? All these points of view on it. So it was fun.
This is a good time for me to hear that message, actually, because I have been focused very heavily on the app.
Yeah.
And it's what you're saying is a good reminder to me, maybe even just kind of going at it a little bit too hard there. You're kind of beating yourself up a little bit about some of this stuff. Maybe just kind of spend a little bit less time on it and spend more time in smelling the roses because, yeah, that pays off. It's a good point. And I love your idea of keep it simple because keeping it simple is critically important when you're doing an app. When you're doing programming, it's really, really important to keep it simple.
All right, good. So that message was for you too.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, why complicate things? And I think a lot of this pandemic and lockdown did simplify, didn't it? Didn't we have to just simplify? I mean, we didn't have to do the 1,000 things in one day that we were doing before because now we couldn't really go and do any of those. And we
right.
found maybe easier ways to get some of that done or, I mean, It just seems like maybe part of that theme or at least what I got out of it over this past couple of months. And the other part too is things that maybe you were worrying about before. It's like all that wasted energy of worrying.
I know.
Really doesn't take you anywhere. And so when it's kind of like everything's shut down, and you don't worry and you're like, what will be, will be. Everything starts open up. Things start changing to where you can see how everything can go in a much better direction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's absolutely true. And of course it goes in whatever direction you tend to be focused on. So if you do continue to focus on all the stuff you don't like, you're going to get that in spades. It's going to increase dramatically, which people have been experiencing.
But the nice thing is that when you do have to kind of slow down, it opens up so much stuff and it gives you maybe a better thing to focus on. Like I was just saying, why am I pushing myself so hard? I could just go it slow.
Well, what you're talking about is clarity. It's the clarity of vision. Now all of a sudden it becomes really clear what's going on, what you've been focusing your attention on, what I have been focusing my attention on, what I've been focusing too much on. All that stuff becomes really, really clear.
you're not even focusing your attention on the energy that's behind what you're doing as you're focusing, right?
Sure.
So,
Well, yeah.
because we could be focusing on a project through like these things that I'm creating. I could focus on with the point of view of, I got to get this done right away. Or I could focus on it with, oh, this is really fun. I'm just going to see what happens with it.
Yes. Yes. And that's the option. That's the choice right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's nice that everybody gets that choice. I'm glad personally that I have become educated through the help of people like you about how all this stuff works, so that I am clear not only of what's in front of me and what's available to me, but how to understand what's available in front of me. Because clarity is great, but it also helps if you understand how the universe works. And before I understood how the universe works, I've been trying to actually imagine that lately. What would it be like right now going through this without the background that I now have, having studied law of attraction, source energy, all that kind of thing? And I honestly can't remember enough about where I was before to draw a firm conclusion. But what I can say is it would have been different.
I love that you just said you honestly can't remember. See, and that's what's going on. It's like things that took place, you know, you might think it, like I know this one teacher I was with the other day, she's like, because she had this experience, she was in this Mumbai massacre. She was one of 4 people who survived it years ago. And so she knew that she was in a wheelchair healing after that and had something done in her house. So she knows what year that was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, her water heater was busting. So she was calling to get it again, and then asked the guy to look at, she didn't know how, she thought it was out of warranty because of, she knew it was like 2008 when she had this experience. And the guy's like, no, it's still in warranty. It was 2012. She's like, there's no, because I'm telling you right now, there's no way it was 2012 because I wasn't in a wheelchair in 2012, but I know I was, right? So this kind of stuff is happening with the timelines and with things that you thought happened, that you have a memory of something happening that doesn't seem like it actually exists anymore, or you can't remember things that existed because it's kind of moved out of your field. I mean, literally, people are moving into a new dimension in some way. This is the kind of thing I would want to ask David. And, you know, how is that? And we're all going to go at different levels, at different, in our own way. And so it's really funky because I know, I'm telling you, I can't put it into words. I wish I could. I've been having these weird time things happening the past couple of days. And even with the client I was meeting with today, it got so messed up when I was supposed to meet with this person. And like what I thought it just weird stuff. See, I can't even get the words out to describe it, but there's something going on with time. We're changing tracks, and because we're moving into a whole new way of being, a whole new dimension, whatever you want to call it in your mind. For me, we're moving into another dimension.
The stream did actually reference that when they were on. They were talking about kind of what you said, how time has actually sped up considerably. And the way he expressed it was, it has increased considerably, even though if your scientists measure it, they'll find that it's measuring at the same rate that they were always able to measure it. But in fact, the illusion of time has sped up for everybody.
Yeah. See? All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So you might be feeling that. You're not crazy. People
right.
There's something actually really going on. You're not losing your mind, because you might feel like that. You're like, what? Yeah.
You're right. There are a number of, I hesitate to call them events because they don't feel like an event normally is. But I'll call them wrinkles because that kind of describes what you're talking about, like wrinkles in time. There are these little wrinkles that have occurred, and you're right. It's like, wait a minute. What happened there? Something is different, and I don't know what it is.
It's a wrinkle, like it's folding over itself, like there's something missing or strange.
That's a great point. I hadn't even thought about that consciously, but you're right. That has been happening.
Yeah. And so when you think about it, you're like, oh, that's what that weird stuff was happening the other day. That's what that was, you know, or like a miscommunication because you're both speaking to each other in different dimensions, and like, I'm telling you, there's been some strange stuff. But let's go to another. I don't know which deck to choose from. Like right now, I'm like open to all of them. Normally, I go to whichever one I'm called at. So I'm going to have you pick it. I've got 5 decks. Give me a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5.
1.
1.
Without hesitation.
Weird animals. All right. Okay, so while I shuffle these up,
I was, as you were asking the question, I was thinking it's the one that's over here, and you pointed to that one and said one. I said, that's what, it's one.
yep, that's it.
So it had to be that one, but yeah, that's a really fascinating thing. This wrinkles thing. And I like the word that we picked for it, wrinkles, because it's kind of like what it feels like. It feels like time kind of folded over on itself and created this really glitchy thing that it doesn't see. I know that's not the way it was last time. This time it's different somehow. Yeah, that's a good way of describing it.
Okay, let's choose this card. We are going to have Crow Spirit, co-create with spirit. Oh, that's interesting too, because that kind of a thing came up, I think, in my July reading.
Okay.
So that's number 17.
Co-create with spirit.
I mean, again, during this lockdown, it's perfect time for you to actually go within. We've been seeing what's real and true for us. Now that we have more time to actually look within and without being so pulled in many directions and distracted, right? So let's see.
When you read that card, after we're done with this card, I'm going to make a comment about what you just said, and I'm going to make a note to remember it. So,
what do you want to comment right now? Or you want
okay. So I don't forget it. That'd be good. Well, I was noticing, like I said, I've been doing a lot of work with trying to get these apps out there. And I was noticing, especially the last few days, that I was valuing the importance of not just slowing down and making it simple. You talked about keep it simple. Yeah, that's part of it. I was also slowing down long enough to kind of just sit there and let, I'll say, spirit come to me. I don't know how else to describe what it was. To let the idea come to me of what is it that this code that in its broken form right now is trying to tell me. What instead of just trying to work through it and crunch it and all that kind of thing. Okay, there's a concept here. There's something that I'm trying to get. What is it? And just kind of sit with it.
Ask the question. And you got your answer?
Sometimes. Well, I guess I always get the answer. It's just, it's not always the answer that I'm looking for, but.
Well, that's the thing. You can't have any expectation. When you ask a question, you just, those forces out there have a wider view than your limited capacity in your mind, right? So doesn't mean.
I've also been noticing it when I'm not actually sitting in front of the computer, because I have gotten very good at, I run into some sort of a barrier, and so I put everything down, put my pen down, put my computer down, and walk away. And then as I'm walking away for 10 minutes or an hour or overnight or whatever it might be, I find myself I don't even have to ask. That's what's so cool about it. Stuff starts coming to me. And at first I thought I was getting ideas, that I was thinking about. And then I realized, wait a minute, no, I wasn't thinking about that at all. This is just stuff that was coming to me.
When they drop in, they just drop in. There's no thought involved at all. It's just there.
Yeah, it's like they appear out of nowhere.
That's spirit.
Yeah. And it was usually about the process. It wasn't so much about solving the particular thing. It was more about the process. Here's the process you've been doing. Here's the process that might actually work better. That kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see what the crow spirit wants to tell us.
Okay.
Co-create with spirit. So the oracle's message is, as you look around you, can you sense the magic that pulses through the world?
Yeah, apparently.
Have you witnessed how every thought can become a thing?
True. Mm-hmm. Sure.
How every intention can call the universe into action as the sacred laws shape what you experience? This is what you were just talking about.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah.
I'm glad you said it first. The universe works in perfect order. When you align your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs with spirit, you will want to crow with delight, feeling the excitement and wonder of being in harmony with something much larger than yourself. That's exactly what we we're just talking about. When it just drops in, it's not a mind process. But then when you have that great inspiration and it comes, sure, kick in your creative juices to flow with that, because then you're in a higher vibration. That's the difference, right? When you're struggling for the solution and you feel what you're feeling in your body, if it's struggle for the solution, it's a lower vibe.
That's true. Yeah.
If it drops in and all of a sudden you're like, perfect. And then you're all enthusiastic about implementing that, and then you're in that high energy. So then more thoughts come in that are a match to that, and then boom, 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 you're off running.
And it's funny too that the way it was worded was crowing about, 'cause they were playing on the character of the crow. I've been doing, as part of my morning routine now for about a month, a thing where I basically crow. I look into the mirror as part of my mirror exercise, and I start shouting and shaking and getting all excited to get my energy up. And it really has paid off. So when you read that, I'm thinking, oh, well, gee, they're talking about my morning mirror routine.
Cool. Hey, you picked the card, buddy. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Low Spirit says, you are right on target now to see your dreams magically come into being in the visible world. I think we're talking to you, Walt.
I think so, yeah.
The laws of abundance, well, probably a whole lot of people too.
I would think.
The laws of abundance, compensation, frequency, and praise are operating in your favor now. Remember, you said the law of praise. Wasn't that part of the book?
Oh, yeah, I think you're right.
That was in there. The whole big thing.
Holly Well's book? Yeah, I think so.
They're all operating in your favor now. Remember to be grateful and praise what is yours, even if it is still coalescing into form, with still residing in the invisible realms of co-creation. No matter what area of your life you're concerned with now, what you hope for is on its way, for Spirit is your co-creator and partner.
Wow.
We could drop the mic thing on that one.
Yeah, no kidding. That just nailed it. No wonder I had you pick from that deck. I mean,
Yep, that's why I wanted you to say the question first.
that was, well, you were right about that. Yeah, that was just perfect. Absolutely perfect. Wow. So that's cool. That's kind of like what it was like talking with the stream last week, because you just say one thing, you raise one question, and the answer would come back, and the answer was just, whoa, oh my goodness, it just totally covers everything, and then some, beyond what I was originally asking about. And that kind of did the same thing there. That's cool.
Right.
Really good.
So would you like to pick from 1 to 4? Maybe
Okay. 2.
Something else now, 2?
2.
Because those 2 cards, I think, summed up everything we talked about in the beginning. Right?
Yeah, it pretty much did.
The world, and then this thing, co-creating with Spirit.
Well, the world especially. I mean, we were talking about the world, and you pull the one card that is called the world. I mean, kind of hard to miss that connection. I don't care how little time you put into this stuff. Even I, a couple of years ago, would have made that connection. That would have been an easy one.
All right, so let's see what we have here. This is the deck that has these little short and sweet things. Combustion.
Combustion. Ooh, that's pretty. Sort of like a circle of flaming something. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, it's hard to make it out.
Yeah.
But it's pretty.
Yeah.
So let's see combustion. Oh, I opened right to it. Okay.
That's always a good sign.
Sometimes I open just like that.
When you open right to it, that almost always is it's a dead-on one. Yeah.
Okay, so combustion. It says, when a flame touches a piece of paper, it flares up, and for a moment, it is awe-inspiring and alive. Mm-hmm. Gradually, the flame dies down until it extinguishes itself. The vibration of combustion is short-lived. Stop and consider other options before setting light to something and destroying it. If you don't acknowledge this, you will incinerate and obliterate everything you love and trust in life. Let me read that one again. Can I read that one again?
Sure.
Okay. So when a flame touches a piece of paper, it flares up, and for a moment it is awe-inspiring and alive. Gradually, the flame dies down until it extinguishes itself. The vibration of combustion is short-lived. Stop and consider other options before setting light to something and destroying it. If you don't acknowledge this, you'll incinerate and obliterate everything you love and trust in life. So that's kind of, maybe stopping and breathing and looking at your options, or maybe asking questions of how you can change something without diving in and just doing anything for the sake of doing it. That's the way I was feeling to me. For the sake of doing it, and then having done the wrong thing, or maybe you thought it was great, but it just didn't work because it looked pretty at first, and then the other pieces just didn't mesh with it in some way, or whatever that might be. How was it hitting you?
Well, that could describe the app, but beyond that, because the app came out a little bit too soon. But also, I was caught by the phrase, I was kind of struck by that phrase about, how do they say it, applying the light or setting the light to something.
Yeah, let me see what that was. Uh, Stop and consider other options before setting light to something and destroying it.
Yeah, that's it. We usually don't think about light destroying. And that
So
phrase
light
caught my
is the
attention.
light in the flame, right? Because
Yeah.
they're looking at it as fire.
Mm-hmm.
They're not meaning light as in spirit. I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, you know, like, so sometimes we want to rush things through, and so we don't think it all the way through, and we just do that thing because we want to get it done or whatever, and then it doesn't work out
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't maybe stop and breathe and think of all the many possibilities, right? It's kind of like the energy I was in the other day where I had no deadline, but I had to keep moving. Like, you couldn't even talk to me. I'm like, wait, I can't concentrate on that. I'm busy right now.
Yeah.
It was horrible. So that, I was probably setting light to that, and,
Mm-hmm.
and having me kind of fizzle up and burn out, then realizing, what the hell am I doing here? I don't even have a deadline, but like catching yourself after having lit it on fire.
Well, there's another way of kind of looking at the same thing that I thought about when you read that phrase, which is especially when we're deep into contrast, we're in a lower vibration state. We've been focusing on a lot of stuff that's low vibration. We're not feeling good. We're not feeling it, so to speak, the way we would talk about here on the show. We're feeling kind of, ugh, and it's been going on for quite some time. When we apply light to something, light always obliterates the darkness and brings everything right to the surface and right to the core. I mean, this has been a year of light in a sense. It's certainly been a year of clarity, and we're experiencing that. We're talking about that toward the beginning of the show. But at the same time, it's almost like bringing up the lights too soon on a darkened theater during a stage play. I mean, if you're dealing in the contrast, well, that's one of the things that Abraham, the stream, all the great teachers teach us. We do come here to explore the contrast. We do come here to explore that darker side. And if you do bring up the lights too quickly, you obliterate the performance. You obliterate the play that you're watching. So for somebody who's in the midst of playing out a low vibe scene of some kind, it would burn it up, wouldn't it? It would burn it up before you were done getting from it what you were trying to get from it.
It's kind of, maybe we go a little bit further and say, you're just, what do you want to set the fuel to, right?
There's that too, yeah.
Yeah. Like, where are you starting from? What haven't you considered other possibilities? I think you have to just always go to, how does it feel within your body? Because we could be on fire with inspiration.
Yes, sure.
And flood the light on that thing.
Yep.
So I think it's just being, just being cautious of what that energy is that you're igniting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where does it, is it up here nice and high on the vibration scale, or is it like?
Well, I think that's part of if I apply what I described to what that card said, essentially, if you throw too much light on it, you're whizzing yourself way high up on the scale from a very low point. That can be very disorienting. And it could actually be a flame out. You can actually rise way up, flame out, and then fall all the way back down again. And that's not a particularly pleasant ride.
Right.
Whereas most well, I'm thinking of Abraham at this point. They teach you climbing incrementally, one step at a time, climbing up that emotional guidance scale, so that you don't have that flame out experience. So that as you do get closer and closer to the higher vibration levels that you want to be at, you can actually stay there instead of being knocked back down again.
Right. Yeah. So I would say really looking at the energy behind it. And then you can even go to, where does that come from? Is it a judgment thing? Are you going into a reaction? Right? Yeah. Which of course you're going to burn out for damn sure on that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah.
That's been another interesting thing that's been happening at this stage during this cycle of pandemic. I'm seeing a lot of people who are becoming very, very judgmental on a variety of things. But the judgmentalism is being accentuated. It's like it's obvious. Anybody who's seeing whatever the situation is seeing that judgmentalism. It's almost like it's being brought to our attention in a
Well,
big, big way.
and I would say that kind of goes to awakening, because the people who are getting stuck in there haven't yet awakened to know that there's so much more than that, that they don't have
Mm-hmm.
to be sucked into it, especially some old story that doesn't have to exist anymore. It's only when you keep putting fuel on that fire that it keeps existing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so easy to do too. That's a
So
great point.
I think if you look, I don't watch the news, but if you're talking about things happening in the news, yeah,
Well,
well,
but I'm seeing a wide range of things, but yes, that would include.
it's almost like they're reacting from unconsciousness, because if they were
Sure.
conscious, they wouldn't react that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And awakening is all about bringing more consciousness to the planet, and that's what's happening, and that's why everything's shifting and changing. So, and for that, as that's happening, there's got to be a lot of crap burning off.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Comes up to the surface, so they can be, I guess you can say, seen and released in some way. If we want to simplify it.
I think yes, there's stuff in the news. I was also thinking about just people that I see around town, people that I have interacted with, people in the gardening business that we deal with. Most of the people I'm dealing with, and this is probably partly me, are very high vibe right now. They may not even understand why they're high vibe. They may not even know that they are high vibe, but they're very high vibe right now. And there are a few who aren't, and the ones who aren't are obviously not high vibe.
Right.
They're like over the top negative, that kind of thing.
I've
Yeah.
noticed it's almost like you're here or you're there. And so it
Yes.
kind of even speaks to this whole thing with being in a different vibrational,
Yes.
a different density or a different dimension
Mm-hmm.
at the same time. Like they're existing at the same time, and that's why you can notice it so much.
Right.
And that's why those two things don't mesh. I remember I was talking to someone checking out on something, and that person was so programmed and stuck into the fear and the misery. And I'm like, wow. All I could do is send that person love. I'm like, okay, it's your choice.
It's also been fun. This is a weird thing to say fun about. Maybe I need to pick a different adjective, but I'll stick with it for the moment. It's been fun. Particularly, I see this out on my nature path walks. Throughout the entire pandemic, most of the people around here, because out in the path, you're relatively far away from everybody else, so there's not been a lot of mask wearing, but there's been some people wearing masks out in the path. What I've been noticing lately compared to, say, 2 months ago, everybody out walking had a higher vibe than the rest of the population, but it was still relatively low vibe compared to what it normally would be. So there were some forced smiles and some forced greetings and so forth, but it wasn't really high vibe at all. Now the vibe is really high, and some of the people, this is maybe 5 to 10%, who are still wearing masks while out on these nature and exercise trails. You can see, even though they have the mask on, you can see they're smiling behind the masks. That wasn't happening before. And some of them, the masks are starting to come off a little bit. It's almost like they're opening up, because everybody can feel this energy. I'm sure of it. I've seen it. I mean, you can hear it in the voices of the non-mask wearers. I mean, people are just like joyful out there. Oh, we're out in nature. Hey, how you doing? All this kind of stuff, and I think the other people are feeling it. The ones who've been kind of in the fear.
Their masks while they're alone in their own car. I'm like, what? I mean, you bought into the programming that much that you have to be, the mask supposedly doesn't do anything for you anyway. I mean, so like, it's all nonsense to me. It's all chaos. All right. 1, 2, or 3?
3.
3. Oh, we're almost at the end of our show already?
Yeah. We've been moving right along.
All right. We're doing the enchanted map.
Oh, okay. The enchanted map. That sounds good. Well, I mean, it's like it usually is. We get started. I'll make a few announcements. We'll get started on some topic, and then it just kind of carries along, and I think that happens more and more now. You were just saying it earlier, we're moving at a faster clip. The time is moving at a faster clip. Well, there's proof right there.
Yeah, because I don't know where that time went.
It just went,
Okay,
oof.
so this will be the last card because we're almost done.
Yep.
See
Okay.
if the enchanted map is taking us. Ooh, coming to life, number 29.
Oh, that's quite the illustration.
I think that's
Wow.
what it says, right?
Coming to life. Okay.
Did you see that? Does it say that? Yep, coming to life.
It's almost like it's almost like a sprite kind of character, kind of dancing with a light in her hand.
Yep, the butterfly. Yeah, she's holding this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what it wants to tell us.
Okay.
And it's upright, number 29.
Yeah, we
Oh,
haven't had any inverted cards today.
right.
Ah, I did it again.
Okay. Something beautiful is being born in your life.
Ah.
All right. Put these down. Okay. So it says, when you look at your life, can you see how you've grown and evolved over time? Perhaps you've shed skins and identities and created new ones, or at the very least, matured in your ideas about yourself and the world you inhabit.
Mm.
You know things take time, and Spirit's timetable is rarely in sync with your own. This card indicates that a long-held dream is beginning to show signs of life. You must try not to coax it along or shape it according to your desires. Spirit knows the best form for the manifestation of this dream, and your life can become even better than you could possibly imagine. This is where we started today.
Yeah.
Now is the time for you to, now is time for reverence and awe. There's a siren going past. Hold on. They like this card too. Allow the contours of your path to be carved by the hands of the divine. All you have to do is show up.
Mm.
Right. We don't have to push and struggle and we just be in that flow and let those things happen. And when we ride that wave, well, then more of that same inspiration comes, you know. How did it say it? Coming to life.
Yeah. I feel like that's another card that talks directly to my situation with the app. Like every single card so far has been saying the same thing to me. I don't know what it's been saying necessarily to our listeners, but to me, it's been the same message over and over and over again. And I want to formally acknowledge to Spirit, yes, I hear I hear the message. I get it.
You get it. Plus, I love how it says, perhaps you shed skins and identities. I mean, that's what we're doing right now. We're shedding all that old stuff. We're jumping tracks. We're moving into a whole new reality. There's something else I thought it said here that, oh yeah, you know things take time, and Spirit's timetable is rarely in sync with your own.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you allow that and just let things unfold, following the inspiration doesn't mean you don't do anything. You have to take action, but
Sure.
it's inspired action. I mean, that's an Abraham thing. Abraham 101.
Right. It's true. Yeah. And in fact, the good news here is you don't have to really be all that patient anymore, because with the energy level overall on the rise, that means the difference in focus and energy levels between us and Spirit is shrinking. It's reducing, which means there's going to be less and less time to have to wait around. So it's not like we have to be really patient anymore.
You know what? I want to put it out there. Why not? Because it just hit me. It just came in. Why don't we put it out there to the universe to have Esther, Abraham, come to the show?
Ooh. Oh.
Whole new timeline. Maybe the universe. Okay, so we asked the universe, what needs to happen for us to have Esther Hicks as our guest and allow Abraham to be speaking to our audience?
That's a great one.
And how does it get any better than that? Even just thinking of the possibility of it.
It's actually almost mind-blowing, because I remember what it was like last week talking with David in the stream, and I know I'm looking forward to that again. And then to also bring Esther in. And actually, if I remember correctly, one of the people that Dan Mangena is trying to bring in is another channeler who also has his or her own spirit group that they channel with. Mm-hmm. I mean, this could be like, Channel Central at this point.
It's fun.
It is fun.
To do with energy and, expanding people's consciousness. That's what it's all about.
I am appreciating that more and more and more. I asked, I think it was last Friday, I asked the stream what what it is that expands, because that was always a question of mine for the longest time. And their answer was, it's consciousness that expands.
Yeah.
And that made more, I don't know why it made more sense this time than in past times. I know others have said that to me in the past.
Hear it from that form.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah. I don't know why that is. I mean, literally, there was a time in my life where I would have been very doubtful of any kind of message from non-physical. I mean, I would have just been completely skeptical. I was completely skeptical. I can think of times where my sister had exposed me to some psychics, and I didn't believe a word they were saying. So I was completely closed off to it. Now I'm not only am I accepting of it, I'm actually believing it more. I mean, that's a shift.
Well, I mean, because that's expanding consciousness, but also because you were just operating off of and pretty much denying your true knowing by going by what the outside world would think of that in a lot of ways, you know? So
possibly
we're taught that this is not real. It's woo woo, you know, it's all
sure,
that.
Yeah.
So there's so much of that think out there that you're an empathic person. You were holding so much of other people's energy that's what the formulation of the belief was. At least that's what
that makes sense, actually. Yeah, you're right. That's probably what it was.
Expanding your consciousness and cracking open to these other possibilities, those programs just dropping away. It's not your truth. It's never been your truth. Your truth is, you know, that you are the ultimate creator.
Yeah.
You are. So.
And it's been a lot of fun opening up to that and learning about that. And that's one of the reasons I've done the podcast and why I enjoy it and why I expect I'll be doing it for the rest of my life. And so that's my little segue to say, become a subscriber so that you can be part of that journey. You will be subscribing sometime soon on the app. I thought it was going to be now, but apparently that time isn't quite here. I'm learning how to step back today, how to just let things flow at their own rate. So the app will be there when the app will be there. But in the meantime, you can still subscribe. Just do it the old-fashioned way. Go to the homepage of the website, loatoday.net. In a couple places, you're going to see notes there because, that the app isn't available. So in those cases, you're better off, like on an Android, going right to not to the Play Store, to I can't think what it's called. The Google. It is a form of Google Play, and I'm not used to sending people that way. I'll get the link back up there. But anyway, you're probably better off going that way to do the subscribe. You can also subscribe to all the major platforms. We're on Spotify. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on, you name it, any of the major podcast platforms. So, check us out that way. Also, check us out on YouTube. That way you can actually see us because we live stream to YouTube so you can watch the videos. And make sure that you click the little bell so you get notified any time that we publish something there. But become the subscriber and tell a friend to tell a friend. Help share and spread the word around because we want more and more people to be involved in our growing community who are involved in things like pulling cards that are exactly perfect to what's going on or listening to the stream as they tell us what the non-physical world is telling us and what the messages they're trying to pass our way. So thank you very much to those who are subscribers too. And thank you, Linda. I mean,
say to you, and how would it be if you were just to let go of the need to get it done and allow your connection to spirit and your inspiration to bring you things that are even more magnificent than you ever imagined?
Yeah, no, that sounds like fun. I like that.
You have this idea and you're pushing towards that idea, but what if you let go and allowed it to build even more, to be even greater than you expected?
That's the message for today for me, is just backing off, just taking it a little bit easier.
This clearing for you and everything that would prevent that, would you like to uncreate and destroy it all?
Sure, yeah.
Times a godzillion. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9 shorts, boys and beyonds. It's an access consciousness clearing. You can learn about it at theclearingstatement.com to understand what that all includes. But yeah, let's let that go.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Allow it to happen.
Thank you for your insights as usual. You've been wonderful. And I look forward to having Rita join us again next time. That's going to be good too. Thanks also to the podcast listeners because without you, we wouldn't have a podcast. And we will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everyone.